Buenos días, señores. Hoy estamos aquí otra vez en la clase de español y vamos a hablar de las expresiones afirmativas y negativas. Es básicamente una lección de vocabulario, pero hay ciertas reglas de cómo y cuándo usamos estas diferentes expresiones. Welcome back to Spanish. Today we're going to be discussing affirmative and negative expressions. So this is essentially a vocabulary lesson. However, there are certain rules of placement and when to use these different expressions. So essentially, the words that we're looking at are affirmative words such as something, anything, some, always, sometimes, also, either, or, and then sort of their negative equivalents, which are words like never, none, nobody, neither, nor, words such as these. One thing that's really important that we look at in Spanish is that the feared and famed double negative in English that we can't use is very, very commonly used in Spanish. And so our sentences in Spanish, if a sentence is a negative sentence, it's negative all the way through. It's not so in English. So in English I say, do you have anything? I say either, no, I don't have anything. So the sentence starts off with do not. It starts off negative, but then we use the word anything, which is an affirmative word. Or we say I have, which is an affirmative beginning to the expression, and then nothing, which is negative. And so in Spanish, the way that would be said is I don't have nothing. So when the sentence is negative, it's fully negative. And when it's affirmative, it's fully affirmative. So let's look at some of the different words we have, and then we'll look at how we use them. Whoops. So when we look at them this way, this is a really nice way to memorize these words because you should look at them as opposites of each other. So algo means something. Nada means nothing. Alguien means someone. Nadie means no one or nobody. Algún or alguno or algunos or alguna or algunas means some, as in it's any or some, as if I want to say some man came to the door, or do you have some pens, for example. That's the way that these would be used. Notice, of course, we have our masculine and our feminine, and our masculine plural and our feminine plural. This word here, algún, is written there because if we're using the word alguno in conjunction with a noun, if it precedes a masculine singular noun, we drop the O here. So, for instance, if what I want to say is some pen, I say algún bolígrafo. If I want to say just some, I use alguno. Okay? And the other ones, if I want to say, let's say some pen, but I'm using the word pluma, I say alguna pluma. The negatives of that are ningún. So again, ningún, when used before a masculine singular noun, we'll drop the O, and then ninguno and ninguna. Notice there's no plural. The reason for that is there's no really such thing as a plural thing that doesn't exist. So if I ask, do you have some pens? And I want to say, no, I don't have any pens. In Spanish we say, no, I don't have no pen. Okay, in the singular. Siempre means always. The words nunca and jamás mean never. Sometimes they're used together to say something like never ever. Algunas veces means at times. Alguna vez means sometime or anytime. And a veces means at times as well. También means too. Tampoco means neither or either. O, we see this funny way that we write it with the O dot dot dot. O means or, right? But sometimes we're going to use it as in I'll have either the Coca-Cola or the Sprite, that's when we use the O twice. So it can be either or. And ni is like neither and nor. So also we can be using that twice. So let's look at some examples of how these work. As I've said, the important thing to remember is that when a sentence in Spanish is negative, it's negative the whole way through. So if I want to say, for instance, tengo algo, which means I have something, and I want to look at the negative version of that, which would be I don't have anything. I would say no tengo. And then instead of algo, I'd say nada. Okay, so that's, in English, I don't have anything, but in Spanish, we're saying I don't have nothing. To look at some other examples, I can say alguien come, someone eats, and the negative of that would be no come nadie. Okay? I can say hay algún hombre aquí. Is there some man here, or is there any man here? And in order, if I wanted to answer that and say, no, there isn't any man here, I'd say, no hay ningún hombre aquí. To look at what I was talking about before, notice ningún is before hombre. Hombre is masculine and singular, and so ningún drops the O. If I wanted, I can use this form of it. No hay ninguno aquí. And because I'm not mentioning the noun here, I can just use ninguno. Okay? Now, most of these words you're going to see, in many cases, you'll see them in a sentence that starts with no, and then has this other word. So we've looked at, let's say I could say, hay alguien, there is someone. The negative would be no hay nadie. Okay? Some of these words, in particular, nunca, jamás, tampoco, ningún, ninguno. A lot of these words we can use at the beginning of the sentence before the verb, and then we don't have to use the word no at all. Okay, so in a sentence like this, we start the sentence negative with the no, and so we have to continue it negative. But for instance, let's say I wanted to say, alguien come, someone eats, as we looked at before. So I could either make that negative by saying no come nadie, or I can put the negative word at the beginning of the sentence and say nadie come, which means no one eats. We can do that with a lot of these words. So if I want to say siempre bailo, meaning I always dance, and I want to make that negative, I can say either no bailo nunca, right? So no precedes our verb, and then we have our negative word at the end, or I can simply say nunca bailo. Okay? Let's see. Sometimes in Spanish, we've got all sorts of negative words thrown into a sentence, so even more than a double negative. I could say, for instance, no compro nada, which means I don't buy anything. But if I don't ever buy anything, in Spanish we'd say I don't never buy anything, and we could say no compro nada nunca, which would mean I never buy anything. I can of course as well put this nunca at the beginning. Nunca compro nada. I never buy anything. In Spanish we're saying I never buy nothing. Okay, so the important thing to remember here is that when a sentence is negative, it's negative throughout. So you have to sort of fight your instincts here. Whereas in English, we're going to want to say, I never buy anything. But in Spanish, we've got to make sure to use the negative term there. Okay, so this is something really good to get to practice on. I'm going to do just a couple more examples here, and then we'll finish up for the day. So let's say, for example, I wanted to say, Jorge siempre va al mercado. Here's one sentence. And let's do another one that says, ella quiere bailar con alguien. And we'll look at one more that says, yo siempre pido una hamburguesa o un sándwich. So, if we wanted to make these sentences negative, Jorge siempre va al mercado. Jorge always goes to the market. So now we want to say Jorge never goes to the market. Our easiest way to do this is to just say Jorge nunca va al mercado. If I wanted to, I could start the sentence with a no and put the nunca at the end and say Jorge no va al mercado nunca. So Jorge nunca va al mercado, or Jorge no va al mercado nunca. Ella quiere bailar con alguien. She wants to dance with someone. We want to turn that into she doesn't want to dance with anyone. So ella no quiere bailar con nadie. She doesn't want to dance with no one, essentially. This last sentence, yo siempre pido una hamburguesa o un sándwich. So I always order a hamburger or a sandwich. We're going to say, yo nunca, I never pido. And because we have this una hamburguesa o un sándwich, our best way to do this is to use this word ni. Ni una hamburguesa, ni un sándwich. So I never order a hamburger or a sandwich, or I order neither a hamburger nor a sandwich. Just remember, in Spanish, negative all throughout. Okay? So, give that some more practice. Check out the PowerPoint as well and take the quiz on that. And we'll see how that goes. Gracias. Hasta luego.